What does it really take to turn grief into stone beauty into a worldwide symbol, and at what human price? The Taj Mahal is often sold to us as a simple love story. An emperor, a beloved wife, a promise carved in marble. But if we stay with the legend alone, we miss the harder truth. Behind that perfect symmetry were tens of thousands of hands, years of exhausting labor, and an imperial machine that could move rivers of money and people to satisfy one man's vision. Stay with me, and by the end you'll know what the Taj actually is, not just a monument to love, but a monument to power, and you'll be able to answer one sharp question with evidence, not romance. Who truly paid for the Taj Mahal? The scene begins not with marble, but with an empire at its height. In the early 17th century, the Mughal Empire ruled much of the Indian subcontinent, wealthy from agriculture, trade, and conquest, governed through a sophisticated court culture where poetry, architecture, and politics were inseparable. The Mughal world was not a quiet palace dream. It was a competitive arena of princes, generals, financiers, and clerics, all bound to the emperor's authority. In this world, personal life was never only personal. A marriage could be a political alliance, a birth could shift succession, and a death could become a public event with consequences across the realm. That context matters, because the Taj Mahal did not rise from private emotion alone. It rose from a state strong enough to command materials, manpower, and time on a scale that still astonishes. The emperor at the center of the story was Shah Jahan, who ruled from 1628 to 1658. He inherited a powerful empire from his father, Jahangir, and his grandfather, Akbar, and he pursued an image of sovereignty that was intensely visual. Splendid courts, formal rituals, and architecture that made authority feel eternal. Shah Jahan was also a man shaped by the Mughal tradition of refined taste, where art and legitimacy walked hand in hand. If you wanted to communicate stability in a world of intrigue, you did it with stone that seemed to defy time. And then there was Mumtaz Mahal, born Arjumand Banu Begum, the woman history remembers as the emperor's favorite wife. Favorite can sound trivial in modern ears, but in a Mughal court it could mean closeness, influence, and trust. Mumtaz accompanied Shah Jahan on military campaigns and is described by court sources as a constant presence. In 1631, she died while giving birth to their 14th child during a campaign in the Deccan. Her death landed in the middle of imperial motion armies, supply lines, politics, and it struck the emperor with a grief that the court recorded as profound. But here's the first why we have to ask. Why did this loss become a monument unlike anything the world had seen? Part of the answer is personal. People close to power can sometimes do what the rest of us can only imagine. They can build their emotions into the landscape. Yet another part is political. A dynastic empire lives on continuity and sacred aura. A ruler who could transform sorrow into divine geometry was not only expressing love, he was shaping memory, and memory is a form of control. To make Mumtaz eternal was to make Shah Jahan's reign feel chosen, harmonious, blessed. The Taj would become a statement. This empire does not merely conquer, it creates. It does not merely rule, it sanctifies. Construction began around 1632 at Agra, on the banks of the Yamuna River. Agra was not a random choice. It was one of the Mughal heartlands, a place saturated with imperial presence. The riverfront location offered beauty, symbolism, and engineering challenges that the empire could afford to solve. The site required an immense platform because the Taj's perfection rests on what you cannot easily see. Foundations, stabilizing wells, layered masonry, and a raised terrace that protects and elevates the tomb. Before a single visitor ever looked up at the dome, thousands of workers had to make the ground itself obey. When we picture the Taj Mahal, we picture a pure white mausoleum, but that whiteness is the end of a supply chain stretching across northern India and beyond. The marble is commonly linked to Makrana in Rajasthan, prized for its quality. Precious and semi-precious stones, carnelian, jasper, jade, lapis, and others came from far regions through trade networks. Timber, sandstone, lime, metal fittings, ropes, and fuel for kilns had to be acquired in huge quantities. And the transportation alone becomes its own story. How do you move giant blocks of stone in the 1630s? You do it with carts, animals, boats, laborers, and time. You build ramps. You coordinate teams. You accept losses. The Taj's stillness hides motion. Continuous hauling, lifting, and shaping day after day, year after year. Contemporary and later accounts often describe a workforce in the tens of thousands. Frequently cited around 20,000 made up of masons, stonecutters, calligraphers, inlay specialists, carpenters, metalworkers, and general laborers. Some were highly skilled artisans, recruited for their craft and paid accordingly. Others did the heaviest, dirtiest work that empires always require: carrying, digging, mixing mortar, dragging stone, feeding kilns. The Mughal state could mobilize labor through multiple channels: wages, patronage, obligations, and the sheer gravitational pull of imperial projects that promised status to the architects and misery to the anonymous. Here we have to be careful and honest. The surviving records do not give us a neat, complete payroll with every name and every condition. But we can still see the outlines of cost, because large pre-modern states did not build wonders for free. They built them by extracting surplus mostly from farmers through taxation, land revenue systems, and control of trade. Even if a laborer was paid, the coin came from somewhere, and in an agrarian empire, it usually came from the countryside. So when people say, the Taj Mahal was built for love, a better question is, love for whom, and at whose expense? The answer is not meant to cheapen grief. It is meant to widen the frame. The Taj is love and loss, yes, but it is also a massive redirection of resources. Every sack of grain collected as revenue, every merchant taxed, every village pushed to meet quotas, every artisan drawn away from local work to serve the court, became part of the monument's invisible foundation. And yet, despite that weight, the Taj's design achieves something rare. It feels effortless. The central mausoleum is crowned by a great dome that seems to float, anchored by proportion. For minarets stand at the corners, slightly angled outward, an often noted safety detail that would help them fall away from the tomb in a collapse. The building is a study in symmetry, but not a dull symmetry. It is symmetry that breathes, with delicate variations in scale and perspective. Walk toward it, and it appears to change size, as if the monument is measuring you back. How did they achieve that? With a precise understanding of geometry, sightlines, and the psychology of space knowledge held in the minds of architects and master builders whose names are less celebrated than the emperors. Then there is the decoration that turns stone into language. The Taj's calligraphy, often formed with black stone inlaid into white marble, uses passages from the Quran that speak about paradise and judgment, creating a spiritual frame for a tomb. The script is not merely decorative. Its placement guides the eye, and its scaling is subtly adjusted so lines appear consistent from the ground. This is design as persuasion. You are meant to look up, feel small, and feel the weight of eternity. The inlay work pietra dura, floral motifs formed from colored stones, creates a garden that never dies, even when the real garden changes with season. It whispers a promise. Paradise is ordered, abundant, and peaceful. But that promise exists because people cut, polished, and fitted tiny pieces of stone with extraordinary patience. Imagine the strain on eyesight, hands, and backs. Imagine the repetitive precision demanded day after day. Beauty like this does not happen quickly, and it does not happen gently. By around 1643, the central mausoleum is often considered substantially complete, though the larger complex mosque, guest house, gateways, walls, and the formal garden continued to be refined for years. The garden itself follows the charbagh pattern, a four-part layout associated with Persianate ideas of paradise. Water channels and reflective pools draw the Taj into their surface, doubling the monument as if the real one is not enough. But even here, the Taj plays with expectation. Traditional charbagh designs often place the tomb at the center. The Taj places the tomb at the end, on the riverfront terrace, turning the Yamuna into the final boundary and, symbolically, perhaps, into another river of paradise. So far, the story sounds like a triumph of will and craft. Now comes the turn that makes it human again, and uncomfortable. Because the Taj Mahal is also the story of a man who built a dream and then lost his own world. Shah Jahan's later reign was shaken by a brutal succession struggle among his sons. In 1658, Aurangzeb seized power and placed Shah Jahan under confinement in Agra Fort. The legend says the deposed emperor spent his final years gazing at the Taj from a window, seeing Mumtaz's tomb across the river like a white wound in the distance. The image is powerful. The builder trapped, the monument free. He died in 1666, and he was buried beside Mumtaz inside the mausoleum. If the Taj began as a story of separation through death, It ended as a story of reunion through death, yet even that reunion is slightly asymmetrical. Mumtaz's cenotaph sits at the perfect center. Shah Jahan's later edition shifts the balance. It's a small disruption in a monument obsessed with order, like history refusing to let the dream remain untouched. This is another how question worth asking. How does a monument meant to freeze time survive the chaos of time? Empires change hands. Armies march. Economies rise and fall. The Taj endured because it was not only loved, it was useful. It became a symbol of legitimacy for later rulers and a trophy of prestige for outsiders. Under British colonial rule, the Taj's meaning shifted again. It was admired, photographed, written about, and woven into a global imagination of the East as timeless and romantic. But colonial admiration could exist alongside exploitation and neglect. There were periods when the gardens were altered toward European tastes, when the monument setting was reshaped to fit a colonial gaze. There were also moments of restoration and conservation, including major efforts in the early 20th century to repair and maintain the site. Through all these changes, the Taj remained both a real tomb and a stage where different powers projected different stories. In the modern era, the Taj faces threats that have nothing to do with cannons and everything to do with air, water, and crowds. Industrial pollution and environmental factors have been linked to discoloration and damage, leading to protective regulations in the region and ongoing conservation work. The Yamuna itself, once a living companion to the monument's design, has suffered from severe ecological strain. Tourism brings revenue and global connection, but also pressure. Foot traffic, humidity changes, wear on materials, and the constant tension between access and preservation. The Taj survives because people fight for it to survive, but the fight is now scientific and administrative, not imperial. At this point, we should confront the stories people love to repeat and decide what deserves to stay. You may have heard a dark tale, that Shah Jahan cut off the hands of the workers so they could never build anything similar again. It's dramatic, and it fits the stereotype of a cruel despot. But historians treat this claim with skepticism because it lacks reliable contemporary evidence and appears more like a later legend than a documented policy. That does not mean the project was humane. It means we should respect the difference between verifiable cruelty and theatrical rumor. The real human cost is already heavy enough without adding myths. The extraction of wealth, the discipline of labor, the risks of injury, the long years consumed by a single imperial commission, and the opportunity cost. What else could those resources have built, fed, or repaired? And now we arrive at the deeper question. What, exactly, is the Taj Mahal saying? On one level, it says love can be monumental. On another, it says power can shape love into propaganda without necessarily faking the emotion. Shah Jahan likely did grieve, but he also understood the language of monuments. A tomb like this does not only honor the dead, it instructs the living. It tells subjects, rivals, and future generations. This ruler commanded harmony itself. Even in mourning, he could impose order on the world. That is why the Taj feels so different from a private memorial. It is not small, not intimate. It is public grief as architecture, grief on an imperial scale. And that scale forces us to ask, why again? Why do empires build? Because building is a way of claiming permanence in a temporary world. Conquests can be reversed. Borders can shift. But a monument can outlast a dynasty and keep speaking long after armies fall silent. The Taj Mahal is one of history's most persuasive arguments carved in stone. The argument that beauty equals legitimacy, that symmetry equals moral order, that paradise can be suggested on earth if the ruler has enough resources to demand it. But there is another, quieter truth that lives inside the marble. The Taj is also a collaboration, whether we name it or not. Shah Jahan could command the project, but he could not carve the inlay, set the calligraphy, calculate the dome's proportions, or solve every engineering problem with his own hands. The monument's brilliance belongs to thousands whose names we will never know. When we stand before it today, we are not only looking at one emperor's love. We are looking at a civilization's skills, passed through workshops, apprenticeships, family lines, and regional traditions. The Taj is Mughal, yes, but it is also Indian, Persianate, Central Asian, and global in its materials and influences. It is a reminder that what we call a single masterpiece is usually the visible tip of a vast human network. So what is the price of a monument? It is measured in money, certainly, and in time. It is measured in the burden carried by ordinary people who never got to vote on the emperor's dream. It is measured in the lives of workers who labored under sun and strain, and in the silent sacrifices of communities whose surplus was redirected into marble instead of food security or local infrastructure. It is also measured in something harder to quantify: the way a monument can hijack a story. Because once the Taj becomes the world's shorthand for love, it can erase the messy reality of empire, labor, and politics that made it possible. And yet this is important. Recognizing the cost does not require us to stop admiring the beauty. Mature admiration holds two truths at once. The Taj Mahal is stunning. It is also a product of an unequal world. Its harmony is real. Its extraction is real. To see both is not cynicism. It is clarity. If you carry one conclusion away from this film, let it be this: the Taj Mahal endures because it solved a problem every empire faces. It turned personal loss into public meaning. It fused the human with the imperial so tightly that even centuries later we struggle to separate them. And in that fusion, it achieved something that still works on us today. It makes us feel, and then it makes us forget to ask who carried the stone. So the next time you hear the Taj described as a love story in marble, ask the second sentence that should always follow. Love, yes, but built by whom, paid for by whom, and preserved by whom? Because monuments are never only about the people they honor. They are about the systems that could afford to honor them at that scale. If you found yourself rethinking what a wonder really means, take a moment to like this video, subscribe for more historical documentaries that separate legend from evidence, and comment your answer to this question. When you look at the Great Wall, do you see a defensive masterpiece, or do you see a monument to labor and state power? And what part of its construction and legacy do you think the world still misunderstands most?